not the what.
That's right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's and really, I mean, we were talking about this before we started recording, but you know, we're both on one level, we are both just GPs. We're
Yeah.
just family physicians. And
Well, the word just has another meaning.
what does it mean?
We're very just people. We're interested in justice.
Yeah, I like it. I like it. But what I find really interesting, and it's something I talk about quite a lot, is I think we've certainly overvalued the specialist within medicine
Yeah.
for far too long,
Yeah.
and really undervalued the role of the generalist. And I am very proud to be an expert generalist. And one of the reasons I moved from specialism into general practice, which you know was a rather unusual decision for many, and certainly my father, who was an immigrant to the UK, and you know was really shocked as to why his son would do that, qualify as a specialist, and then move to generalism.
It was a demotion in his mind.
Yeah, I think he was just confused.
Yeah.
And I understand that, you know, and I think, you know, I think the doctors of the future, the healthcare practitioners of the future who are going to have the best outcome with their patients are the ones who are expert generalists and can see everything. And, you know, I know we're running short on time, so we will hopefully continue this at another time because there's so much to talk about. But I do find it interesting that you're one of the world's leading voices on trauma and addiction, and you're a family practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of what you do with your patients, you have intuitively picked up, and you've also got a skill at, you know, I think maybe the word counselling is the wrong word. You do a lot of emotional work with your patients.
Yeah.
And I'm finding the more I understand about the human body and the more I really understand what's driving my patient's behavior, I'm doing a lot of emotional work with them. And yes, of course, referring them to an appropriate practitioner where you know where it's needed, where someone's got that expertise. But that wasn't my job. I didn't train to do that, but I figured out as someone who's really inquisitive as to how can I get my patient better.
Yeah.
I find, well, I have to go there because
That's right.
it's really important.
Well, so I think you and I are both properly and dramatically impressed by the capacities and skills of our various specialist colleagues.
Absolutely.
It's amazing what they can do. So this is without any sense of diminishing or devaluing their work.
Of course.
But they're trained in a certain ideology, which is purely biologically based. So they look upon the human body as a physiological entity divided into various organs and systems. And that's what they deal with. And what they're not taught is that human beings, the mind and the body, the emotions and the physiology are inseparable, scientifically inseparable, and we have the science to show the unity. They're also not taught that human beings are social creatures, so that our very physiology is shaped by our social relationships. And our very brains develop in a social context, so that whether we talk about neurophysiology, psychology, or the physiology of the body, we're talking about influences that go well beyond our genetic and physiological endowment. They're not taught that. And therefore, when they see a person, what they see is a disease in a particular organ. Whereas if you're a generalist, properly trained, or at least a generalist who's developed a broader view, you see that human being in context, you see it in a relationship to their lives, in a relationship to their environment, and you see that the illness, whether it's addiction or depression or anxiety, or for that matter, rheumatoid arthritis or scleroderma or anything else, is a manifestation not just of a system, but of an entire life. And that life is lived in a context. And we have to address that if we're going to deal with the illness. And unfortunately, both you and I have had the experience of having to come to that conclusion through our own work and through our own internal experience of dissatisfaction with how our lives are going, but nobody taught this to us.
Yeah.
And yet this is the way that so the average medical student, despite all the trauma that you and I have discussed today, particularly in relationship to addiction, and all the research showing how the addicted brain develops in response to the environment, and how the addiction itself is a response to the environment, the average medical student in North America, and I would argue probably in Britain, doesn't even hear the word trauma once in 4 years of medical school. I mean, did you hear the word trauma when you went to school?
I don't. I don't think I heard it till a few years ago, frankly.
Yeah,
Let alone at medical school.
And it's not a word that they should hear. It's a course they should have. Every physician should be deeply trained in trauma, because everything they see, virtually everything they see, has got a traumatic connection to it, particularly in the mental health field, but I would say in the physical health field as well. They don't even hear the word.
Yeah.
So essentially, when a person goes to a physician, they go to somebody with very deep but very limited knowledge, who does not see the whole individual, who's not trained to see the whole individual.
Even the fact that we say physical health and mental health as two
Yeah.
separate things is almost a reflection of that in many ways.
That's right.
Because they're not different, are they?
And again, I heard World Health is interesting, because what's the origin of the World Health? It's wholeness.
Wholeness.
So to talk about physical health is already a contradiction.
Yeah.
Because you can't talk about physical wholeness. Wholeness means everything.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I love it thinking about it like that. Look, Gabor, for many people listening, we've gone through some quite dark stuff, hopefully
Yeah.
illuminating for people, but